Hi folks, today's video is long overdue and it's going to be an update on the wood stove that I had modified last year. I finally got around this summer to stripping it down and seeing what it looked like inside. This video is sponsored by GreenLifePlanet.net, suppliers of high-quality aquaponic, hydroponic, and greenhouse supplies to the Caribbean. By GlassBottleOutlet.com, suppliers of a huge variety of glass and plastic bottles. By TrueAquaponics.com, providers of aquaponic nutrient supplements and also the host of True Aquaponics group on Facebook. And also by our other Patreon subscribers. You can also subscribe to Patreon for early viewing of these videos along with access to our premium website. Also, while I was doing some of the filming, I had some odd problems with my microphone, so the sound does cut out, so I had to do a little bit of voiceover here and there with that to make up for the difference. But overall, I think you get the point of what was happening with this. Just for a refresher on how this modified stove works, some air comes in through a bimetal thermostat damper and provides some fresh air to the wood. The secondary burners ignite the gas and it then passes under and over the water tank before venting out the chimney. There are very few changes to the original setup, but I did add one additional baffle. This is used to keep the gases flowing better past the secondary burners. The baffle also has a few holes in it, so a few flames could pass through it and ignite the gas. Usually this would help before the stove gets up to temperature. Now that I have the airflow working well, I'll replace the sheet metal with something that will last just a bit longer. I tried burning some bio bricks. They would burn, but just not produce the heat that regular hardwood was capable of doing. Overall, I wouldn't spend the money on them for heating. Maybe they're better suited for an ornamental fireplace. I will definitely stick to the seasoned hardwoods. I decided to experiment with burning some dried wood chips. I bent up some hardware cloth so that the chips could get fresh air to go around them. I loaded it up and used a little diesel to get them started. They burned fairly well, but not with the same intensity as the wood, and after a little while I had to stir them up a bit. They needed a lot more fresh air through the damper to keep burning properly. Just like the bio bricks, they never display the same secondary combustion as burning regular wood. I'll have to keep experimenting with them. I found the best way to burn was to completely load the stove with wood, then start the fire from the top and let it burn down. This would allow for the secondary burners to operate better with the burn near the top while everything was still heating up. Then I had no problems loading it up with a second batch since I had a good bed of hot coals to keep it going. There were a few occasions where you could hear the water boiling in the tank and it would start sputtering out of the discharge line. To keep it from boiling, I just put in a larger pump on the line to increase the flow rate. Near the end of the winter, I ran out of seasoned wood and started to burn my wet supply. It's very difficult to burn and really takes a lot of wood to heat the greenhouse. It's quite impressive to watch the steam shoot out of the wood as it heats up. There's a lot of moisture that goes up the chimney. This is the time where you start worrying about creosote buildup. I put two air baffles on the side of the stove. The premise was that the air would come in up the bottom, heat up, and then it would go into the secondary burner intake that was up in here. Sort of haphazardly put together, but it did help to improve the heating of the air going into it. The stove's basically a heavy gauge sheet metal. It's all bolted together, and if you put a straight edge against it, you can see it's been buckling a lot from the heat. Really not quite designed for what I'm making it do. I found one spot here where it's actually rusted through and it's sucking air in through that way. I'll probably have to weld a patch into it for next year. Above the door, there's some spot welds that holds the sheet metal in, and you can see it actually has rusted and popped off, and over here there's a whole bunch of air that's just leaking in, so this will all have to get patched. The window's held out pretty good. It's a little loose. It's going to need to be packed a little bit differently, I think, this year, but for what it does to help me see inside on how it's burning, it's worked out pretty well. So let's take a look inside. Oh, looks like we've had a little casualty here. Purple finch or house finch must have flown in through the chimney. It's well mummified now. Taking a look at the grate inside, there really isn't much left. This cast iron pieces. This is the handle for the shaker and what's left of the shaker. This is what that's supposed to look like. My neighbor had an extra stove of the same model, so he gave this to me from his old stove. Even this one's in some pretty bad shape. There's a bunch of cracks in the cast iron, so I'll throw this in for next year and we'll probably get a year out of it. The fire brick should all get replaced in here. When I bought it, these two in the back were already cracked. I have a few more that are cracked, so I'm going to try to replace them, but it's going to be highly unlikely I can get the brackets out because everything's just rusted together in here. But we'll see what we can do with it. If not, we're going to run it one more year with the cracked bricks. This first diverter that I have in here is shot. It's only some thin sheet steel that I had. I think I burned through 3 or 4 of them over the winter. Just quickly made them up and threw them in here. I did a good job, but it's not the greatest way to burn through steel. These baffles above the secondary burners are in fair condition. They got replaced a couple of times, and good spot to collect some ash, but they do okay. They're also shot, and I'll have to remake these. But the good thing is there's no creosote buildup on them, like what you would see from a colder burning fire. Alright, now let's see how the real equipment handles the heat. Considering that these burners are made out of cheap box tubing, they actually did pretty well. Still have their holes in there. Got some flaking of the steel, but for the most part, it's looking pretty good. I should be able to just brush these off, get some of the flaking off of it, and use it again next year. And again, there's no creosote buildup on any of this, so it looks like it's definitely burning hot enough in this area. Alright, now to pull the tank out. Not super easy to service, but not too bad either. Problem with this tank is you can't really pull it out without spilling water everywhere. Just get a little ash on top of it. So this is the top side of the tank. It's got a bunch of ash, a lot more over where the chimney is. So it's probably just the heavier ash dropping back down and in. A little bit of creosote buildup on it. For burning 7 cord worth of wood through this thing, I think that's looks fairly reasonable. I don't see any evidence of rusting or leaks on it either. Bottom side has a little bit of rusting on it. Whole bunch of creosote down in here. I'm not really worried about the creosote because it'll just burn off. Just get a little less heat transfer into the water with it though. I'm actually a little surprised how well the welds held up along the sides. I was able to pull the cast iron grate and pan out and found that this was used to hold the fire bricks in place. There isn't much left to them, so they will have to all be replaced. While I had everything pulled apart, I pulled out the MIG and patched the hole by adding a plate behind it and filling it in. There is very little material left to weld into. Everything is all cleaned out and the replacement cast iron grate and new fire bricks are installed. The welded patch came out okay, and my outstanding welding skills really display my abilities for welding sheet metal. It should all hold together for another year.
I also wanted to give a real quick update on the Rocket Mass heater. I am still using it on occasion over the winters. It doesn't get used quite as much. It's just a lot easier for me to burn wood for the longer term, and the wood is substantially cheaper than pellets. In fact, this year the pellets have gone up another $1 a bag, so I'll probably be burning even more wood this year. There weren't any modifications made to the heater at all. It's been running perfectly fine, and I checked the chimney inside and it all looks nice and clean. So we're going to keep it just as is for this year also. I wanted to thank you for watching. Don't forget to sign up for our Patreon page if you wanted to get early access to these videos, along with access to our premium page on our website. Thanks for watching.